Welcome to the CyberWire's Research Saturday podcast, brought to you in part by our title sponsor, the Cybersecurity Inside podcast. Visit cybersecurityinside.com/Research Saturday. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the CyberWire's Research Saturday. I'm Dave Bittner, and this is our weekly conversation with researchers and analysts tracking down threats and vulnerabilities, solving some of the hard problems of protecting ourselves in a rapidly evolving cyberspace. Thanks for joining us.
We were notified by one of our customers. They were seeing an attack that had a specific message in the attack traffic, which drew their attention.
That's Larry Cashdollar. He's a principal security intelligence response engineer at Akamai Technologies. The research we're discussing today is titled REvil Resurgence or a Copycat. And now, a word from our title sponsor, the Cybersecurity Inside podcast. Nobody is safe from a cyber attack. Ethical hacking, two-factor authentication, security assurance, anyone can be targeted. That's why all of us need to think about cybersecurity differently. Hosts Tom Garrison and Camille Morhart are joined by industry leaders to dive deep into today's most important and timely security topics, like tips to prevent and stop wide-scale cyber attacks, protecting IoT systems and networks, why we need confidential computing, and more. There's never been a better time to learn about cybersecurity to protect yourself and your company. Whether you're a CISO, security expert, or just want to know more about cybersecurity, the Cybersecurity Inside podcast will help you walk away smarter about cybersecurity and have fun while you're at it. Check out cybersecurityinside.com/Research Saturday today to listen to the latest episode. That's cybersecurityinside.com/Research Saturday, or search for Cybersecurity Inside wherever you listen to podcasts. And we thank the Cybersecurity Inside podcast for sponsoring our show. CINAC Red Team mission data shows that a once-a-year pen test is no longer adequate to protect sensitive missions or meet most compliance requirements. Government agencies deserve a better way to pen test, one that scales to find vulnerabilities that matter most. Go to cinac.com/government today to find your better way to pen test in the CINAC FedRAMP moderate environment. That's synack.com/government. And we thank CINAC for making it possible to bring you Research Saturday.
And they asked us to investigate. So I hopped on a call with them, and we were looking at the attack traffic. And it's not stuff that we normally see. Typically the type of attack traffic we see is just more, it's not so specific. But the requests had a specific message, which is kind of uncommon. And the message was part of the path in the GET request for HTTP. So we thought that was kind of unique and interesting, so we investigated further, and that's pretty much how we ended up writing up this blog post.
Yeah. Well, let's walk through it together. Can you give us some of the details about the attack itself?
Sure. The attack was originating from widely distributed IP ranges. So these IP addresses were in U.S. territory. They were in Argentina, Brazil, the UK, Russia, Iran. They were just really widely distributed across the globe. And initially, we thought it's likely going to be either infected IoT devices or proxy servers. And upon investigating further, we noticed that these IP addresses were MikroTik routers, a lot of them, which was part of the Maris botnet. A few, months ago, I believe that the Maris botnet was utilizing MikroTik routers to proxy attack traffic through. thinking of this, we thought perhaps it was someone utilizing part of the Maris botnet, but we couldn't really prove that if somebody was either borrowing a part of it or just reusing the devices that Maris had used. It was unclear to us, during the investigation. The attack itself was pretty simple. It was a GET request, and as I had mentioned earlier, the path in the GET request had a specific message for our customer to comply with a certain demand and then provide some Bitcoin in order for the attack to stop. The attack itself wasn't very sophisticated. They were using some cache busting techniques where the query string in the GET request was like a 8 randomized character string. And that's something where when a web server or a caching web server sees the request, it thinks it's unique and it doesn't try and pull it from cache. It tries to pull it from the origin directly, increasing load on the origin server and bypassing, any load balancing or caching systems. So it wasn't a super sophisticated attack, yet it wasn't a very sophisticated attack. It was sort of low level and with basic just attack techniques. We noticed that the user agent string was also the same. It was the same user agent string across all IP addresses that were attacking the system. So that was another interesting tidbit that we noticed, that it was unique in that fashion too. Usually they use different user agent strings and things like that. So
REvil is not generally known for DDoS attacks. I mean, they're kind of famous for being a ransomware as a service organization. So did that throw into question the plausibility of this being from them?
We kind of question that because we don't know if they were attempting to pivot into a different monetization method, because typically, as you mentioned, they use ransomware. They're the ransomware as a service, and there's no ransomware present in this attack. So we're not sure if they're trying a new model of making money, or if there's actually someone, a copycat attacker, who is attempting to piggyback on their notoriety. Folks are aware of REvil, and they've been in the news, and this adversary could be attempting to use their publicity to threaten and intimidate the target. So we're not exactly sure which one it is, but it's right. Definitely something of interest.
Kind of a Dread Pirate Roberts situation where the
Exactly.
name is the name is important, right?
Right.
What about the messaging that you said was in the headers themselves? I mean, the specificity of that strikes me as being interesting in itself.
Yes, it was the message was asking for compliance against a specific court order, and it had something to do with a government court order, and it was very political, which isn't like anything we've seen from REvil before. So it was something that was not. It didn't seem like it was something that would be in their wheelhouse. So again, we weren't sure if somebody was just attempting to use their notoriety to get their message across or get their demands met or what. So it was still unclear.
What about the DDoSing itself? I mean, what level of traffic are we talking about here?
We saw at peak, it was about 15,000 requests per second, which isn't super high. It's not insignificant, but it's the Maris botnet was producing way more traffic than that. So this didn't seem like it was a full bore capability of the Maris botnet. This seemed like it was either somebody building on top of the vulnerable devices, or as I had mentioned earlier, were using part of a botnet that they might have either purchased or possibly got permission to use. We're not exactly sure, but it wasn't a big amount of attack traffic.
Well, how long did it last, and what sort of things did your customer do to parry against it?
The attack lasted about an hour, and then there was a small burst of traffic after that attack that was less significant than the first attack. And then the attack disappeared, and we didn't see any more traffic after that. The customers, our systems, array controls were handling it. So it because of the initial burst, our systems were able to just ignore the attack traffic, and the customer was able to say, "Hey, what's going on? Why are we seeing this?" And they were able to further pivot and fix their or shore up their defenses in case another more intense attack occurred.
Where do we stand right now when it comes to being able to do that sort of thing, to defend against these sorts of DDoS attacks? Is it becoming almost routine to be able to have this not really have a great effect on organizations if they're properly prepared?
Yes, if organizations can prepare for this type of attack in advance, then they likely won't even notice the attack traffic. Unless they're checking their web traffic logs and things like that, they probably won't even notice. So it's always a good idea to try and shore up your defenses before you find out that you've should have shored them up, and then you get an attack, and then suddenly your origin server's down or your backend database is crashed because there's so many connections to your website.
So what are your recommendations for organizations then to properly prepare themselves against the possibility of this sort of thing?
I would definitely look at having if your website, if you think you might be a target or you expect to be handling a lot of traffic, then look at content delivery networks such as Akamai, or definitely have load balancing, traffic filtering, things like that. If you're only expecting inbound traffic on port 80 and 443 for web traffic, then why would you allow UDP traffic on port 53 for DNS on your network? It's making sure that your systems are locked down and the traffic that you're expecting is allowed in, and anything unknown or is odd is automatically blocked by your defense system.
Our thanks to Larry Cashdollar from Akamai for joining us. The research is titled REvil, Resurgence, or a Copycat? We'll have a link in the show notes. Thanks to the Cybersecurity Inside podcast for their sponsorship. Visit cybersecurityinside.com/researchsaturday or search for Cybersecurity Inside wherever you listen to podcasts. Thanks to Synack for their sponsorship. Government agencies deserve a better way to pen test, and the Red Team at Synack applauds your mission to find the vulnerabilities that matter most. Learn more at synack.com/government. The CyberWire podcast is proudly produced in Maryland out of the startup studios of Data Tribe, where they're co-building the next generation of cybersecurity teams and technologies. Our amazing CyberWire team is Rachel Gelfand, Liz Irvin, Elliot Peltzman, Trey Hester, Brandon Karpf, Eliana White, Paru Prakash, Justin Sabi, Tim Nodar, Joe Kerrigan, Carol Terrio, Ben Yellen, Nick Valecki, Gina Johnson, Bennett Moe, Chris Russell, John Petrick, Jennifer Iben, Rick Howard, Peter Kilpie, and I'm Dave Bittner. Thanks for listening. We'll see you back here next week.